The record button is pressed.
All right. What show is this?
Use your words.
What radio station are we on?
MU Radio.
What's the best part about that?
That we can do whatever we want because nobody's
That's
listening.
not true. I'm gonna be listening.
Oh, yeah. My mom might listen on the YouTube later on, but
Ooh.
if I tell her. If and when.
Hello, Mads' mom.
Hi, Carmen. Well, so our setup for today is that we have 10 headlines.
Ooh.
And then we have an in-depth analysis on education. And then we have our soapbox series, which you will hear about later on because it's a soapbox series. So it can get heated, and we don't want to spoil it.
What happens when you heat up soap?
Oh, when it gets put in the microwave. I saw this. You put it in the microwave, it like blows up. It's really kind of actually hilarious. And if I didn't care about my microwave, because popcorn is important.
You can use your roommate's microwave.
She does have one, but she's nice. I like her a lot.
Well, but like, is she like nice enough where she doesn't warrant like doing this for science?
She's a science major. Maybe I can ask her if she's willing to donate her microwave to science.
That's an option.
Yeah, it is. But should we get started on our headlines?
All right. Do you want to read off the...
You can read them off.
Okay.
Because they're on your computer. Because my computer's the Spotify.
That's fun. All right.
And I just want to point out that we came up with these just for you guys out there.
Yeah, these are all news stories we invented.
Yeah, and we came up with them in the last half hour.
Jeff Sessions. This is gonna be our first and probably most topical topic of the night. Jeff Sessions was the Attorney General under, actually still currently is the Attorney General under President Donald J. Trump's first administration. And he's come under fire for perjury and illicit kind of meetings with Russian ambassadors.
Yeah, I've heard about the Russian ambassadors one. Can you give us a little more information on this?
Yeah. What had been happening was he'd been meeting with the Russian ambassador, Sergei Kislov. No, that's not the way that's pronounced.
A Russian name. He's been meeting with a Russian name. And didn't he say directly to Congress that he did not?
Right. He was during the Senate Judiciary Committee's confirmation hearings. Senator Al Franken asked him if he asked Sessions what would happen if any evidence came up pointing that Sessions was affiliated with was communicating with the Russian government. He said that no kind of communications had occurred at all, which then later turned out to be false. And we know that, well, at least we know this because the Russian government has been ousting Sessions and saying that and pulling out records and documents of
saying, yes, we did meet.
Yes.
You're lying.
Which is an interesting move for the Russians to play.
Well, yeah, it's definitely a move of Russia saying, like, hey, we're here. Hey, we have a little control. Don't mess with us. Like, we can screw with you.
I don't think little's ever a word to be used around Russia.
It's a big country. That's true. All right, what's number 2?
All right, number 2. We've got the Oscars. The Oscars mix 'em up.
The mix-up. I did not get to watch the Oscars. I only just saw a couple of headlines about it, but they said that they announced the wrong movie, wasn't it? Wait, what is the Oscars again? Which one?
Actually, like, what are the Oscars?
The Oscars?
Is that what they are?
Yeah, I don't know for sure.
I've never watched an Oscar.
You haven't either?
No.
I've watched a couple, but I didn't watch them this year. But I heard the girls out in my lobby watching them.
Oh. I heard that Emma Stone won Best Picture.
She's beautiful. I love the fact that she's a redhead most of the time. Go Redheads. She's awesome, though. She's really good. But yeah, they announced the wrong movie, and then they kind of zagged and went, "Oh, excuse us, sorry, we're wrong. It's actually this one." So
I saw some of like the internet images known as memes, showing like the image of one of the guys like just leaning forward, holding the envelope out for the camera. I don't know what the context of it is. I just know I've seen it.
The the maze, the memes.
Yeah.
Well, I feel bad for the people who thought that they won and then they just didn't.
Yeah. You might want to turn those microphone sliders to be maybe a little bit less than that, but just so that they're equalish. Or maybe mine a little more down, because yours is probably going to be needing it. Ooh. Yeah,
How's that?
That's probably a nice mix right there.
Okay, cool. Trying. I really shouldn't be the one sitting behind the desk.
Well, trial by fire. Lots of fire. Horribly painful fire.
Yeah, most definitely.
All right.
Number 3.
Number 3. Arnie Schwarzenegger is leaving The Apprentice. The real news report is that he was on The Apprentice.
Yeah.
So yeah, it turns out Donald Trump left his position as the you're fired guy on The Apprentice, so he could run for the presidency of the United States of America.
And somehow win.
And Arnold Schwarzenegger took up his place as being the head guy running the Celebrity Apprentice.
So he gets to say, "You're fired" to all these celebrities when they screw up.
Yeah, I remember there being kind of like some news reports of like, what's Arnie's new kind of catchphrase going to be? And then I never watched it or heard anything about it, so I don't know what his catchphrase is.
I've never watched it even when Donald Trump was running it. And yeah, I
saw the last episode of the season where Piers Morgan won.
Who's Piers Morgan?
He's a British... you don't know who Piers Morgan is?
No.
He's a British commentator / newscaster who's like you probably recognize his face once you look him up.
Okay. I'm not going to look him up right now, but I will look him up later. I had to reopen my computer.
Well, regardless.
So he's gone. He's out. So who's going to take over? Do we know yet?
We don't know. What had happened was Donald Trump has maintained an executive credit on the show. So like his name still flashes in the credits and he still gets money from the show. And after people found out about that, there was a massive social media backlash against the show and a big protest against it.
Understandably so. He's the president. He really shouldn't probably be getting money from a celebrity TV show.
And Arnold Schwarzenegger was saying that the conditions of the show just like are not going to be something that he wants to be a part of, because like it's not going to be a show that can ever like succeed on its own merit just because of the political baggage associated with it.
Yep.
To which Donald Trump says he thinks that Arnie was just a really bad fit for the job.
Well, I mean, that's what Donald Trump is good at, just saying, "Oh, you're not good enough. Oh, you don't know what you're doing. Oh, I'm better." Just, not disintegrating, just kind of pushing you down. He's good at that.
He's very good at pushing and shoving. At a National Prayer Breakfast in D.C. about last month, Trump mockingly asked people to quote, pray for Arnold for these ratings.
Oh my God.
It's, yeah.
The sad thing is that he actually
sad.
Probably cares about the ratings.
He probably does, because it's kind of his baby, more so than Tiffany. He at least remembers the name of the Celebrity Apprentice.
Oh, ouch.
Like
that. With that, we're gonna move on to the next headline.
The next headline, automation's ticking up quite a bit these days.
Oh, this is the engineer in you. Okay.
All right. Let me grab one.
So this one I don't know anything about, because when we did throw these together, I just kind of thought like, I don't know. Peter, what headlines do we need? And he's like, oh, well, there's some cool things about, technology and science. And I went, cool. Those are yours to figure out, because you're the engineer. You're the one who's supposed to be an Olin, not I, even though I am. So that's all you.
Well, yeah, basically what's going on here is there's a lot of like debate kind of heating up over whether like major corporations that are like turning to automation should be like taxed for like robot usage, because like a major thing that's like come out in a study is saying that like there's roughly like 83% chance that anyone whose current job is like $20 an hour or less is like that person's got an 83% chance of losing their job in the next like 7 years.
That's really high.
Like specifically due to automation.
Wow. We really should be looking out for that then. Do you think that they should be taxed?
I'm not sure exactly what the right play is here, but there's definitely like we definitely need to take precautions with automation coming up, I don't think that we should like stymie it. I think automation can be both the greatest boon and the greatest curse to humanity.
I agree with that.
But we need to have a smart play about it because, like, getting into a bit more editorialization here, like, in the next, like, coming decade, singular, we're going to see, like, a massive, like, swaths of the population become unemployable rather than unemployed. And the current political climate in this country, I don't think is ready to understand what that means.
Yeah.
And it's going to be very important that we are able to adapt to the radically changing economic market.
I agree with that. I definitely think that is true. Number 6, are we on now?
Next one is number 5.
Ooh. All right, we gotta get going on these a little quicker. Let's do it.
AI deep learning is the next one. Another
sciencey one.
Science. Where did I put it? Somewhere. There's a Google has its deep learning AI, which it has been using to try to diagnose patients with cancer, and it's now been put up to like actual competition with other doctors, and in a study that they had, the human being doctors were having a accuracy of 73%.
Mm-hmm.
But the Google AI was scoring at 89%, and it was also going at a much faster rate.
That's a significant difference. This is a perfect example of what you were talking about right before, how there's, like technology is coming into our world and can be taking jobs, even jobs that we see as very human and very like intelligence needed. When I think of like robots coming in and taking over jobs, I think of factory jobs. I think of kind of blue collar jobs that don't usually take as much schooling and skill. But this shows that that's not the case.
Right.
Robots can take any kind of job. They can take over for doctors. They can take over for nurses. They could maybe take over for lawyers. We don't know the aspects to which we don't know exactly how they'll be in the next 20 years integrated into our society.
Right. Like a lot of these like lower skill like transportation or like manufacturing jobs will probably be the ones that will go in the next 7 years.
Yeah.
But in 20 years, it's difficult to say that there'll be any jobs for people.
Well, I don't know. There's always, robots, new designing robots. Maybe.
Well,
let's not say that all the jobs will be gone.
Well, I said it would be
We're
difficult
at college getting degrees to hopefully get jobs. Let's not say that we're not going to have any jobs.
And I'm utterly terrified by that prospect every day I wake up.
Oh, my God.
Next story. Another one on the J-Man. Donald J. Trump had his first, how people are discussing it as presidential speech in front of Congress this week.
Oh,
Do you want to take this one?
Well, okay, so I didn't get to watch the speech, but I watched an NPR reel about it and an I watched expose, how they talked about it, and they while I was waiting to get the coffee for my boss, I listened to it, and it said that Donald Trump actually said a lot of things that weren't exactly on the Republican platform. He was very moderate, and he, for the first time, like listened completely and followed his speech, very little off the speech. We're used to Donald going off and saying whatever and kind of just being the flamboyant person that we know, but he actually seemed very presidential supposedly at this, and he talked about issues that both sides are caring about. He even talked about like maternity leave, paid maternity leave, which is insane to think about, that a Republican president would be thinking about this and saying, hey, we need this. So it'll be interesting to see how much of the things he said in that will actually come true. But we'll see where it goes. You never know what you're going to get with the Donald.
Yeah, and that's really the strongest thing you can say about it. Also then, in this also radically surprising news, the Bitcoin now, it's like a single Bitcoin now is it's climbed above the price of a single ounce of gold.
What's a Bitcoin?
A Bitcoin is it's like a cryptocurrency, it's completely digital. It's a type of currency that is like not exactly crowdsourced, but it's spread over all of its users, and has like very good security in like its like how it can be transferred, and like it's not run by any single government, but it's run by
It's like a universal currency or something.
not
like
necessarily universal, but like internet.
it's
Very
an internet currency.
Right.
Google has its own currency now. I see.
It's not Google's. It's open. It's very not open source, but like it's very crowdsourced. It's very like algorithmic. Like there's no like overarching government. Like there's no agencies running it.
That's interesting.
It's quite anarchic. But
my favorite thing, the anarchic system of the anarchic international system.
yeah. But like what's good about it is that like it provides like a lot of alternatives for people like in different parts of the world, like where it's just this currency that they have access to as an alternative form. What's also bad is that it's completely untraceable and can be used in a lot of nefarious purposes.
Oh,
but that's
I
true
see.
of like any tool.
That is true. That's kind of crazy that's gone above gold.
Right. It's had a tumultuous history of like spiking
Going up and down. And well, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
Is this the last headline?
No, we've got 3 more.
3 more. All right.
We can probably drop the last one, but now probably the biggest one for our listeners is the crisis going on in MUSG.
Oh my God, we're getting in on this, and this is really actually important for us because as Model UN members, we actually had about how much? You're the treasurer.
Allegedly.
We allegedly had about $1,900 taken away from our budget.
Yeah, we want to stress that
it's alleged. Yes, it's all alleged. We got an email today from our president saying that these things said against him are completely untrue, and he is a Marquette student, and this is the Marquette community, and we are all upstanding Catholic great people. But it's quite interesting to think that this even came to light, that he went in after they voted on the budget and changed it unilaterally without consulting the committee or anything. That's dictatorship.
Allegedly.
We've been saying allegedly enough.
Well, something that's definitely not alleged. As you said, you referenced President Cole's email that he sent out to the student body today.
Yes, I read it. I read it sitting in E-Hall. I snuck into
E-Hall. The
E-Hall.
Marquette Wire has issued a response because in the email, Cole states that that the Wire was saying, like, he said that
people were saying like
in the
mean
Wire
things.
in the Wire article, it stated that impeachment processes had begun, and Cole said that was not true, and that like no formal submission had been like filed.
Yes.
And there's a new Marquette Wire article out just saying that that's completely false.
That there is an impeachment going on.
Right. That a MUSG senator submitted a formal request to Ann Sorensen, the judicial administrator, on February 20th.
So a good like week and a half ago.
Right. So either someone is misunderstanding what is and is not the process for impeachment, or someone is knowingly lying.
And I mean,
or some other alternative that I'm not aware of.
Maybe he just doesn't realize it. Maybe he's like pathological liar or something. But this is definitely something.
Or maybe an honest mistake.
I doubt that. I find it so upsetting to think that our student body president can lie multiple times. It seems to be coming out. Could possibly be lying multiple times, and just think that it's okay to go in and like possibly change the budget of something that is supposed to happen with the people that we elect. I'd also like to point out that he was the vice president. The actual president that the student body voted on to be our president, resigned. He resigned for personal reasons earlier in the semester. So it's all very fishy. And we're kind of having our own little Watergate on campus here right now, with The Wire doing some in-depth analysis and work and
I think we need to coin this
journaling.
term right now. Budgetgate?
Budgetgate.
Budgetgate.
Marquette Budgetgate. You heard it here first. This is the Marquette
Use your
Budgetgate.
words, and the word of tonight is Budgetgate.
And we will see what will happen later down the road, because I mean, this is an ongoing story, and it's quite interesting. And it even if you are not part of one of the clubs that has been supposedly affected, and there's multiple clubs that have a lot of membership. Like Model UN was actually the smallest membership from the groups that got stolen, got not stolen, but got money all supposedly taken from. And I mean, even if you're not in these clubs, this is something important to think about, because this is our student government. This represents Marquette, and
Also
they make
note,
tons of decisions.
Also of note, there's a $30 fee that goes to every single student for the student activities that then MUSG decides how to divvy up. So that's your money, Marquette. We're in the hands of these individuals.
And supposedly this individual just went in and changed it, even because the whole point of the whole idea of having a student government and being able to vote on who we want in there is so that we have a little choice over what happens to our money. And yet he goes in, supposedly, and changes that. That's not okay and not fair.
It definitely would not be.
Nope. All right.
And then we got a little more of a lighthearted political thriller. The American King of Wales.
No, this is our last one. This is pretty hilarious. I learned about this today.
There's a Colorado man who recently issued a notice to the people of Wales and Greater Britain, declaring his rightful claim to the title of the king, be the King of Wales. He supposedly has been doing research on his familial line all the way back to the 3rd century AD, and he claims he might be right. I don't know. He claims that he is a unbroken primogeniture line all the way to the last King of Wales.
And the thing is you have to look this guy up. You have to see the picture of what the King of Wales supposedly looks like. A Colorado man. 10th generation American, you said?
I didn't say 10th.
Somebody said 10th.
Someone might have said that.
One of my friends told me he was a 10th generation American, but supposedly he can be the King of Wales. But he's not going to try and take over, right?
He will try to become King of Wales, but what he has that title. Well, possibly. But what he said also he's going to do is, as that position, he said that he's going to graciously not depose Queen Elizabeth II on account of her, quote, great service unto the nation. And what he's instead going to do is, upon her death, take his rightful position as the King of Great Britain.
Oh my God. Poor Charles. Charles has been waiting forever to be the king. He's been waiting forever for his mom to just, pass on and him get to take over for the 20 minutes he gets to take over before he dies too, because he's old. And now he has this Colorado American coming back, and I bet he's thinking, I thought we got rid of you people 250 years ago. Why are you getting back in our business now?
Absolutely delightful. And anything that can destabilize Britain is a thing that can stabilize my mood.
Oh, are you a person who's against Britain?
So that's all of our headlines for tonight. What's the next segment of our show?
Well, our next segment is actually, we're going to take a short break and we're going to play a song. And I'm going to play this song because it has been stuck in my head all day. I took a quiz today and sang this song as I took the quiz.
Did it help you with the quiz?
No, I didn't study for the quiz because I didn't have time. And then Dr. Meisner called me out on it.
You had time to listen to the song?
I hadn't listened to it since that morning when I was getting dressed. But it's been stuck in my head all day, so we're going to listen to it. So here is Equal Powers by Violets.
All right.
I hit the wrong button. Did you like the song?
It was.
So just think about like me sitting in class taking this test, like writing furiously because it's an Asian history test. So you just gotta write, and just humming to myself like Rain Man, do 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 do, and my teacher's just looking at me, and he's just like, oh my god, this girl, what? Why is she my advisee? Why did I let this happen? But so now we get to go into our deeper conversation, which we chose this week to be education.
Yeah, that's something we try to do here.
We try to get educated or be educated, or what?
Tell me what the difference is.
Being educated means that you have knowledge and you can utilize that knowledge to analyze the world around you. Getting educated is you are learning specific skills to be utilized later down the road.
All right. I thought what you had asked was, are we here to get an education or give one?
Oh, well, I think like while we're sitting in this room, we're going to try and not give people education per se, but give people our opinions, which can help their understanding of education as a whole.
Inspire them to educate themselves.
Exactly. And I think that overall in this, institution, we are here to get an education. And we're not just here to get I go on my little soapbox once in a while, but we're not here to just get an education to get a job. We're here to get an education to make ourselves as better humans being, to be able to be a part of this community, this society, and bring something to the table. I don't think that going to university is just going to lead you right to a job. I think it's more about giving you the ample skills to be an active member in the community that can lead to a job, not get a job, if that makes any sense.
Right, you're trying to grow your person.
Yeah. Become a well-rounded human being. And that's why we're at Marquette, because we get a Jesuit, well-rounded,
liberal arts
education, which was really actually important to me in my college search, was finding a place that had a liberal arts education, because I think it's important, even though I'm not good at science, to learn a little bit about science. And even though I'm not great at math, to have to take a math class and struggle through it. And I think it's really important for people like engineers to have to take a little bit of a language maybe, or have to take an English course and learn how to utilize the English language to make people understand actually what you're doing.
What's really fun for me is when I'm talking with other engineers and they complain vigorously about their theology or their philosophy or their English courses. And I'm just sitting here thinking, oh, you're one of the worst. You're one of the worst beings.
Why? Why would you think that?
Because they literally, they chose to go to Marquette University.
I don't think it's bad for them to complain. I mean, I've definitely complained about my theology course a lot, because theology isn't a place that I'm good.
It's one thing to complain about the course and maybe its quality, but, to complain about the, idea that you have to, take, their complaints were more so on the basis that they're engineers and that's not going to deal with their career.
I like the fact that my favorite thing about that is, I think, one, it's really important for them to take that course, because
Right.
they get to see a course that other people have to take a lot more of. But my favorite thing that people do, and this goes across the board, I don't think that this is just an engineering thing. I don't think this is something that only business students do. I think this is something that all of us do, and we all need to be aware of and work on, is the fact that we are really good at putting our own majors and our own activities up on a pedestal as somehow important and good and so difficult and hard, and putting down a lot of the other. I know for a fact that I have made fun of comm majors, but I definitely know that I could not get up in front of a whole group of people and speak eloquently enough, like they have to learn how to do. And I've heard from people who are engineers and business majors and things like that, that my arts and science majors are going to get me nowhere. And I find that really sad. And I kind of like the idea that maybe taking these courses where you don't do what you usually do makes you more aware of what other people are doing constantly, and gives you an understanding that it's hard for everyone. You know, everyone's education is slightly different, and everything that we have to do is slightly different, but it's all equally hard and important.
Yeah, what I've heard from a couple different employers and different professors in the engineering school is that a lot of times, like, the most important things on your resume are non-engineering related. Like, one professor told me that, like, the best thing that he had on his resume was, like, that he took a Shakespeare English course in during his undergraduate, because that showed that he was willing to, like, be more than just a blunt tool that can do calculations.
Yeah, and it's funny because my mom has an undergraduate in English, and a lot of people all the time, when I tell them that I am a poli-sci French and history, they go, well, what are you going to do with that? And I tell them the story of my mom, who got only one degree in English, and I said, she ended up getting a job at one of the largest accounting firms in the country. And it's because accountants are great at what they do, but can they speak to the people they're doing it for and explain to them what's happening and why they're doing it? No. They needed kind of almost an interpreter to tell their clients what the accountants are doing for them. And so that was the job my mom did, like one of her first jobs out of college.
Also, for, like, a lot of your jobs, after you get your first real, like, job experience in your field of choice, your college education is going to be of very little importance to employers.
Yeah, it's also very interesting too, because I'm looking at going to graduate school and you are looking at going to law school. That I don't know for law school, but I know for graduate school, they actually don't focus on the name of your institution, but your GPA, your GREs, and your extracurriculars and things that you did for the community. Things that you
GREs?
did. GREs? Oh, sorry. It's my language. GREs, I don't know exactly what they stand for, but they're pretty much the ACT for graduate school. So you take specific GREs for whatever you're going into. So there's specific GREs for maths, for English, for poli-sci, for international relations, which is the one I'm going to ultimately take. Either that or history. I'm guessing I'll take international relations because I feel like that'd be a better master's to get, but you can take one for really anything. I think you can even take one for languages.
¿Por qué no los dos?
I don't speak Spanish. I really don't, and I definitely don't speak meme, and I'm okay with that.
But you know what I meant.
I did this time.
So you did Spreckens that.
Oh, Sprechen Sie Deutsch? I can speak a little German. Just like that one word line. But yes.
But the point remains, ¿por qué no los dos?
Because I don't know, actually. I haven't really looked into that. But your little, like, por qué no los dos? Por qué no los dos gets me into another thing that I want to talk about in English. I mean, in English. Yes, I will talk in English, but something else I want to talk about education, which is language. I actually wrote a paper on this. I know that you have a paper up about college loans, which we'll get to next. But I think it's really important that everybody in our educational system, starting in hopefully elementary school, learns a second language. Because I think, one, it opens doors for you as just a person, but I also think it changes the way that you think of the world. And it changes your ability to understand and analyze a different culture. And I think a lot of the time that the United States can be very insular in the way of seeing the world. And if you knew a second language, I think it would be a good way to open up a little more, and especially with globalization happening, it's really important. What do you think, Mr. I speak one language?
Well, I speak a couple languages.
Meme isn't a language.
Well, I speak I speak English. Apparently meme's not a language, which that's another week's discussion. I took Java. That's computer programming language.
Okay, I'll give you that one.
All right, that's 2. I'm a Catholic, so that means I basically speak Latin.
You never even took Latin in school.
Well, but like I'm Catholic, so
last week you said you were Jewish.
What's the difference?
There's a huge difference.
Well, ¿por qué no los dos? Like, why? Like, are you just trying to, like, strip me of my heritages?
No. Okay, we're gonna stay on task. But do you think that you, if you had started, say, in 2nd grade with Spanish, do you think that now you are sitting here as a 19-year-old second-year college student And just like, if you knew Spanish, do you think you'd be better off?
Oh, most certainly. With the coming demographic shifts in the United States, Spanish is going to be a vital tool. I think it's predicted by by the mid 2050s, Hispanic people are supposed to be the single largest demographic in the United States.
Yeah. And they're a demographic that's really important actually in Milwaukee too. We have a large population here, and we continue to have more people coming in from like Mexico and those areas, and the Southwest that are moving from the Southwest to Milwaukee and other areas in Wisconsin.
Also, I think it was roughly 2 years ago, officially now, more Hispanic people are born in the United States than move into it year by year.
That's amazing. That's so cool. But yeah, I definitely think that language is an important and integral part of our education that's being dismissed and looked at as less important than it really needs to be, especially in this global climate that we live in, where we are in contact a lot of the time, even just on a normal day-to-day basis in our different jobs, with people who are from across the planet. Think about how amazing it would be if, instead of always relying on other people in different places to speak English, we spoke a different language. We spoke French, we spoke Chinese, we spoke Spanish. That could really help us, one, understand the people that we work with better, as well as make it so that we're not so reliant on other people to have those skills. And je suis très contente que je peux parler autre langue.
Oh. Well, that's pretty exclusionatory for me.
Oh, désolé. Si tu parles en autre langue, si tu parles français, tu peux parler avec moi. Mais tu ne parles pas en autre langue parce que tu n'étudies pas. Et c'est triste.
What I heard in there was ultra long.
Autre langue. It means other language.
I think it means very long.
Long versus long.
Well, we can agree to disagree.
Okay. But I think it's important. Yeah. Now, let's move on to what you wanted to talk about, which is college loans, correct?
Correct. Something that I have railed against in the dark nights many times is the travesty brewing that is the student loan bubble.
The student financial debt?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the way I see it is, if we turn back the clock to 2008, we had a situation where the economy was booming because many conglomerates and banks were seeing plenty of quote unquote like unfailable like in business investments that could not fail.
Yeah, the AAAs that were actually full of Bs.
Right.
The AAA loans that were actually full of B loans, which means that the people were not likely to actually be able to pay off their mortgages.
Right, the high risk loan.
I would say, for anybody who doesn't completely understand the crisis that happened in 2007, 2008, watch The Big Short, because for somebody who didn't take econ for a long time, I watched it before I actually understood economics, and it helped a lot. Go on.
Yeah, kind of like basically a little bit of a rundown here for what happened. Like, all these people saw like an investment that they thought could not fail, because best case scenario, you sell out a loan, people move into a house, and they pay interest on the loan until it's done. That's good scenario. Bad scenario, at some point they foreclose because of some reason, but then you still have the house and you can just start over. It's a investment that can't fail.
Yeah, but what happens when everybody starts foreclosing and there's nobody in the market to buy them?
That's when the bubble pops.
And that's what happened in 2008.
Right. And all these people get pushed out of their houses. No one had money to pay for loans. No one was able to buy new homes. And it was a cascading effect due to all of the interdependencies within our economy. And that's what led to the Great Recession.
Which we're still feeling
the
after effects. We're no longer in the recession. We're on the uptick, but we still have a higher unemployment rate than we had, and actually the amount of people who are in the workforce looking for jobs has significantly decreased since the recession. So I think right now we're at about 5% unemployment. But the thing is we were at like 4% unemployment before the Great Recession, but we had 68% of the population actively in the workforce, either looking for a job or doing a job. And now it's down to like 62% and of the population looking for jobs and is in the workforce, which is a significant difference. And a lot of people still don't understand why they haven't come back yet.
And then now if we look at the like student financial loans, it's a very similar situation. Plenty people will like look at individuals or like banks and also the federal government. If people will go in and get their education, invest in themselves off the dollar of outside investment, and then they will go in, become better. They'll be able to go get a job and pay it back eventually. And also, by law, like they can never get out of this loan. Like no bankruptcy can ever get rid of it. So
yeah, because student loans are separate from when you go bankrupt.
Right.
Yeah.
So to an investor, it's literally something that cannot ever fail, which is a very scary proposition.
Because we've seen other things that they believe cannot ever fail, and dramatically change our economy and the way that many people live.
Also, what's very bad is we've basically had the song of go to college being played in our society for the past 40 years. Everyone, like, plenty of people might say now, oh, you can still get a trade. And that's, in my opinion, still a very reasonable option. However, much of our society has stigmatized, like, the trades and other things as, like, jobs for the other, jobs for immigrants or others who are maybe less deserving, which is not a good... I don't think that's a stigma that should be around because it's just not a practical or even accurate one.
Well, no, because I mean the thing is like even a trade, they have education and they're doing something that benefits our society and is an integral important part of our society.
Right.
And pushing it down as if it's not important is the same kind of idea that we were talking about where arts and science people talk badly about comm kids and engineers talk badly about arts and science kids. It's the same. It's in the same kind of boat. It's not cool. And it's not how we as a country should see each other.
Right. And I'm about to get into why it's like directly harmful to our world, because you then get droves of people going to try to get to get bachelor's degrees when really they either A, don't need it, or B, aren't really up to it. Like there's plenty of people who just going to college isn't necessarily their best play.
And that's completely okay.
Right. But
not everybody needs to, like, not everybody is built for college.
Right. And that's not a slight against them. That's like our society has very much tried to portray it as such, but that's just really not the case.
No. And there's other options that they should be able to take.
So you've got masses of people who believe that their only next option is like not even a choice for it. It's just the next move is after high school is you go to college. And you've got all these investors who just will automatically like you can get loans from the federal government. Like that's not a difficult thing to do.
No, it's not at all.
Right, because it's an investment that cannot fail. And then if you're at the university, you look at this like, oh, there's massive demand for like so many people want these loans or want to go to universities.
Yeah, they want this education that we're giving.
And also none of them have excuses for not being able to find money. Like all of them can get money.
Yeah.
So there's no incentive for the university to not... Well, actually, there's great incentive for the university to increase prices.
Well, yeah, and then the thing also is what happens a lot of time, too, at these universities is that I've seen, at least through my own college experiences, they have this idea of a sticker price. You see this price, and it's, like, so high, and then the university goes, oh, no, you're not going to pay that. Like, that's just a sticker price.
Oh,
and
yeah.
A lot of students don't pay the price that supposedly is there. They pay like anywhere between like $1,000 to like a couple, like a lot less. But so you never really know exactly with the quote financial aid you get and like those kind of things.
Right, but it's still an absurd price.
Oh my God, it's so absurd.
Like a normal Marquette education, including room and board for the 2 years that you're required to purchase it.
Yeah, required is important to hear in there.
That's upwards of $100,000 for 4 years.
And that's a lot of money.
And for plenty of people who don't have the means to pay that outright or out of pocket, that's going to be a loan that they likely, and depending on what kind of career you go into, you might be paying that off well into your 30s, potentially into your 40s.
I have to say that right before I went into college 2 years ago, my parents told me that like 2 months before I went to college, they paid off my mom's final undergraduate debt.
Huzzah! How
And
old was she?
Roughly,
Roughly?
it would be roughly around mid to late 40s.
Oh,
and
that's
getting
fun.
getting ready to send their first child to college.
That's absolutely fun.
So, and she graduated in 89. And so this was even before the prices started skyrocketing. They've gone up a lot since the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah,
and so it's even before that. And yet she was like, we were still paying off.
The price of tuition since roughly when our parents were going in the 80s, it's roughly tripled.
Yeah.
And it's expected to triple again by 2026.
And that's insane.
Which, yeah, absolutely, like, unacceptable is my term for it. But plenty of people have and will accept it until we get to a critical mass, which I think is maybe 5-6 years away. So we've got the situation where all these people like have the only option for them is go to college, and people are just throwing money at them because it's a perfect investment, and universities just wantonly and irresponsibly, I'll editorialize, irresponsibly raise the prices to ludicrous levels.
Yeah.
And simultaneously, coming off of 2008, you've got plenty of people, especially from the baby boomer generation, who are still working or who now need to keep working because a lot of their retirement funds that were washed away in the political chaos or in the economic chaos. And that backs up the entire workforce. Like, millennials were hit the hardest by the 2008 crisis. Like, a lot of the stats show like overall the country's doing better, but millennials are still hurting very badly.
Yeah, isn't it? They're having trouble finding jobs.
It's one of the worst. Like, out of like any demographic, it's one of the worst. Like, if you look at that demographic rather than the country at large, it's one of the worst economic recoveries that the country's ever seen.
Yeah, it's absolutely terrible. And we're so excited in 2 years to graduate and get to go right into that.
Right. And just start paying off these loans.
Yeah.
And the perfect thing is, so you stack up the largest generation to date with like exorbitant amounts of debt, and potentially, I have a statistic in here somewhere. I think it's 40%. 40% of undergraduates are either unemployed or underemployed. And like, even if you're like underemployed, like that means like,
you're still not.
Right.
You
You're not
have
gonna-
skills that are not being utilized, and you're probably
Right.
not
Like,
getting
you're
paid
in
the
a
amount
job
that
that-
you're supposed to.
Yeah,
You should be able to get.
right, you're in a job that you could have gotten without your bachelor's degree, and then you're not going to be able to really keep up with these loans. And 40% of 40% of millennials is a massive amount, especially considering that it's the largest generation, not even just currently in America, but that is ever.
Yeah, that's quite scary to think that 40% are not being able to find.
They're not going to have the means to pay these loans.
Yeah, and that's huge. I mean, I think it was the Great Depression. It was 25% unemployment, around like through all generations and all people in the workforce. But I mean, 40%. That's almost double that.
Right, and these aren't just like people who like aren't looking for jobs. These are like of the workforce that are attempting to try and find jobs but just cannot.
Yeah.
And a lot of people might chalk that up to like, oh, they just made bad decisions, and it's like, well, you can't
What
just look
other
at these
decision did they have?
Right. This entire society has been like patronizing college as such a perfect thing that like society has to like, and like not necessarily like answer or like repay them for it, but we'd have to in the future make sure that we don't like sell this song of like you have to go to get a higher education, because that's just not gonna work out.
No.
So looking like in the next 7-10 years, we've got a situation where people are not going to be able to pay off their loans. If they do find a way to pay off, they're going to be substantially like handicapped. And maybe they won't buy a house for an extra like 20 years later. They're going to be a lot more frugal. It's going to like really hamper the economy's growth.
Yeah.
Because like, you have such a massive swath of the population just not being able to contribute to the economy, both in a production and consumer point of view.
Yeah.
And I see that as a like perfect a combination for a horrible, horrible economic crisis.
I definitely see it too. And so what we need to take from this is that universities are making us pay so much more than they really should be, and that you really need to be careful with these loans that you're getting and how you're going to pay them off, because it's really easy to get the money now, but it's really hard down the line to pay it off. And people are going to be knocking at your door and saying, hey, you need to pay that off. And the scariest part is that through the American Bankruptcy Code, you can't even get rid of this. A Chapter 7 bankruptcy, my dad's a bankruptcy lawyer, and I worked in a law office for a while, so I worked on a couple of these. But a Chapter 7 bankruptcy is where you pretty much any asset that you have, unless it's needed to live, is going to be gone. You know, they foreclose on your house. They sometimes sell your car. You lose things that are in junction with other family members. If you have a cabin and you have it owned jointly with your brother, they will sell your half and give that money to creditors. And that's really scary to think that this can happen to you, and yet you still have this student debt underneath you, because you cannot get rid of that student debt. It's not the same kind of debt that you take out for credit cards. Because, I mean, when you go bankrupt and you have credit card debt, it usually is they sell your assets, and whatever money you have, then they give to the credit card company, and they go, this is all we got. Like, they're starting over, and you can't come after them after that. Now, you cannot go bankrupt more than once every 8 years, but that's the idea that you can have this clean slate is really important, because yes, financial trouble happens, medical bills happen, things that you can't control happen, but the idea that you're in this huge debt because of an education that you got and now you can't utilize, and you can't get a clean slate.
Through not necessarily any fault of your own.
Yeah. And you can't get this clean slate. That's really scary, and that can lead to huge problems.
Right, and it's not like if you can't, they just stop adding interest on. Like, that just keeps snowballing bigger and bigger.
Yeah, so we need to be aware of this and keep it in our minds.
Like, I think unless, like, some sort of dramatic action is done, I think it's entirely feasible that, like, by the time we're older, we see many of our peers paying off undergraduate student loans well into their 50s.
And that's a scary thought, and it's
later.
Not fair to them. So I think this conversation's getting wrapped up, but I think we definitely need to think about this. And as the generation coming up and going to be taking legislative spots soon and going to be coming into these leadership roles, we really need to keep this in mind and think about what we're going to do to fix this and make it so that we don't have another economic crisis that's maybe even worse than the one we had in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to play another song.
All right.
And this one is for my little sister.
Aww.
It's from Hamilton. She's actually going to see Hamilton next weekend in Chicago for her 14th birthday, which was back in July.
Oh,
but
timely.
Yeah, it took a lot to get the tickets. So I hope that you enjoy this song. It's one of our favorites. What's it called, Peter?
Non-stop.
All right, here we go.
After the war, I went back to New York.
After the war, I went back to New York.
I finished up my studies and I practiced law.
I practiced law, Burr worked next door.
Even though we started at the very same time, Alexander Hamilton began to climb. How to account for his rise to the top? Man, the man is non-stop.
Gentlemen of the jury, I'm curious, bear with me. Are you aware that we're making history? This is the first murder trial of our brand new nation, the liberty behind deliberation. I intend to prove beyond the shadow of a doubt with my assistant counsel.
Co-counsel Hamilton, sit down. Our client Larry Weeks is innocent. Call your first witness. That's all you had to say.
Okay, one more thing.
Why do you assume you're the smartest in the room? Why do you assume you're the smartest in the room? Why do you assume you're the smartest in the room? Soon that attitude may be your doom. Why do you write like you're running out of time? Write day and night like you're running out of time. Every day you fight like you're running out of time. Keep on fighting in the meantime.
Non-stop. Corruption's such an old song that we can sing along in harmony. And nowhere is it stronger than in Albany. These colonies, economies increasingly stalling. And honestly, that's why public service seems to be calling me. I practiced the law, practically perfected it. I've seen injustice in the world and I've corrected it. Now for a strong central democracy. If not, then I'll be Socrates throwing verbal rocks at these mediocrities.
Hamilton at the Constitutional Convention.
I was chosen for the Constitutional Convention.
There is a New York junior delegate.
Now what I'm gonna say may sound indelicate.
Goes and proposes his own form of government. His own plan for a new form of government. Talks for 6 hours, the convention is listless.
Bright young man. Yo, who the F is this?
Why do you always say what you believe? Why do you always say what you believe? Every proclamation guarantees free ammunition for your enemies. Why do you ride like it's going out of style? Ride day and night like it's going out of style. Every day you fight like it's going out of style. Do what you do. Alexander?
Aaron Burr, sir.
Well, it's the middle of the night.
Can we confer, sir?
Is this a legal matter?
Yes, and it's important to me.
What do you need?
Burr, you're a better lawyer than me.
Okay.
I know I talk too much. I'm abrasive. You're incredible in court. You're succinct, persuasive. My client needs a strong defense. You're the solution.
Who's your client?
The new U.S. Constitution?
No.
Hear me out.
No way.
A series of essays anonymously published defending the document to the public.
No one will read it.
I disagree.
And if it fails?
Burr, that's why we need it.
The Constitution's a mess.
So it needs amendments.
It's full of contradictions.
So is independence. We have to start somewhere.
No. No way.
You're making a mistake.
Good night.
Hey, what are you waiting for? What do you stall for?
What?
We won the war. What was it all for? Do you support this Constitution?
Of course.
Then defend it.
And what if you're backing the wrong horse?
Burr, we studied and we fought and we killed for the notion of a nation we now get to build. For once in your life, take a stand with pride. I don't understand how you stand to the side.
I'll keep all my hands close to my chest. I'll wait here and see which way the wind will blow. I'm taking my time watching the afterbirth of a nation, watching the tension grow.
I am sailing off to London. I am accompanied by someone who always pays. I have found a wealthy husband who will keep me in comfort for all my days. He is not a lot of fun, but there's no one who can match you for turn of phrase. My Alexander, don't forget to ride. Look at where you are. Look at where you started. The fact that you're alive is a miracle. To stay alive, that would be enough. And if your wife could share a fraction of your time, if I could grant you peace of mind, would that be enough?
Alexander joins forces with James Madison and John Jay to write a series of essays defending the new United States Constitution entitled The Federalist Papers. The plan was to write a total of 25 essays, the work divided evenly among the three men. In the end, they wrote 85 essays in the span of 6 months. John Jay got sick after writing 5. James Madison wrote 29. Hamilton wrote the other 51. How do you ride like you're running out of time? Right day and night like you're running out of time. Every day you fight like you're running out of time. Like you're running out of time. Are you running out of time? How do you ride like tomorrow won't arrive? How do you ride like you needed to survive? How do you ride every second you're alive? Every second you're alive. Every second you're alive.
They're asking me to lead. I'm doing the best I can to get the people that I need. I'm asking you to be my right hand,
Treasury
man.
or state?
I know it's a lot to ask.
Treasury or
To
state?
leave behind the world, you know.
Sir, do you want me to run the Treasury or State Department?
Treasury. Let's go.
Alexander,
I have to leave.
Alexander.
Look around at how lucky we are to be alive right now.
Helpless.
They are asking me to leave.
Look around. Isn't this enough? He will never be satisfied. He will never be satisfied. Satisfied.
History
I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. I am Alexander Hamilton. Hamilton, just you wait. I am not throwing away my shot.
Boom! Shoot, I messed up.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
Yes, my little sister, like, over the summer I skated a little bit, and my little sister would play that while we skated, and I just thought it was so silly. I was like, Kate, what are you doing? And then I actually listened to it, and I was just like, yeah, and I was like, I'll go jump and spin to this. This is great.
Right. It's something I identify with a lot. Just the idea that time is ever always sand slipping betwixt my fingers, never to be retrieved again.
I just love. Okay, wow. Let's just be a little negative.
That's not negative. That's just a fact of life that I have to deal with.
I'm gonna be positive for a sec. I love the fact as a history. I know me being positive. It's kind of odd, isn't it? I love the fact that I am a history major and that this can be on, like, it is Broadway and everyone is so into it, and it's so great to see people into history, because a lot of the time people are like, history just sucks. I hate history. It's boring. And yet we have just a bunch of people going out and seeing Alexander Hamilton, which is all about Alexander Hamilton and the American Revolution and the building of our country, which I find such an interesting part of history, because we built the modern democracy. And it was built just by a bunch of people in just a little colony that didn't have a good army, and they beat the British Empire, the reigning, just most amazing army that we had seen on the planet in that time.
Insert French here.
Insert French here. Peace to the French. You helped us. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for that.
We appreciate it.
Well, we did.
Yeah, we did. We actually did. And then we, bought your land for pennies because, Napoleon. But
what a swell guy.
Yes. But I definitely just think I just love this musical. And Kate has an extra ticket, and I would love to see the musical.
Hey, Kate, if you got an extra ticket, I think what Mads here is saying that you should probably give it to me.
No, I have been schmoozing her for weeks. For weeks, I've been schmoozing her, going, I love you. How are you doing? She got braces yesterday, actually, though. And she said
she got braces a couple days in a row?
I mean, it could have taken a couple days. Those things are pesky little things, little buggers. I had them for 4 or 5 years. So I definitely,
braces.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of like as a middle schooler, it's just kind of something that you have to have nowadays.
Rite of passage.
Yeah, it is a rite of passage. I got mine in 6th grade, and I got them off my sophomore year of high school, so it was great. But yeah, shout out to Kate. Happy birthday. Love you.
Thanks for the tickets.
Please give me the ticket. I would love the ticket. But should we do our soapbox series now?
Yeah. Do you have something you need to get up on your box
Get
about?
up on my little soapbox about? Don't I always? I always have something that's irking me, I feel like, which is terrible because I should be content with my life because it's a great life.
That's not true.
It's not true that my life isn't great?
No, it's like you need to be able, like, just, you can't just be content. You always got to be able to, like,
strive for something more.
Like, worry shouldn't overpower, but you should always be striving.
Oh, trust me, I am definitely a worrier. I worry about everybody I care about. That's why I'm pesky, and
you care about everyone. So that's that's the other side of that problem.
Yeah, I try every day. I try at least to like talk to people and make sure that they're doing okay, and I try and like think about them. And I mean, that's why I text my random friends who are thousands of miles away from me. I actually got a text today from my friend Roz, and it was so great just to talk to her because I think about her daily, even though she's over 1,000 miles away from me. I actually get to go see her over Easter break, which I'm so excited about.
May I know which direction those 1,000 miles are?
She lives in LA.
Ooh.
I know you don't like LA.
Well, it's just a quantifiably bad city, but that's not our soapbox night. What was your?
Actually, I kind of like that soapbox more. Can we do that one? I love talking about where people want to end up. It's one of my favorite things. So let's do that.
If you want to start off with that, that's your option.
You can talk a little bit about how much you hate LA, and then I'll go, hey Peter, where do you want to live? And then you can talk about yours, and I can talk about mine, and it'll be great.
All right. Well, I guess Milwaukee Art Museum, you survived this week.
Yes, Milwaukee Art Museum, you did survive this week.
Narrowly though. But instead, we'll talk about LA.
I feel well. We're not just going to talk about LA. We're going to talk about different places in the world that you want to live or do things. I think it's a good one. I like this.
All right. Well, LA is a drivel of a city. Absolutely degenerate trash.
I've never been there, so this is not my opinion on it.
This is my opinion on it. If you're from LA, you're trash.
Hey. We are not going to generalize people. We talked about this last week. Do not generalize. Talk about what you don't like about the city, not about
the people.
Yes, because not everybody.
No.
is
The
like
people is what I don't like about the city. In addition to everything else about it.
How? She's my best friend. I love her. She's the best. She's the most amazing person.
Like, is she trying to get out of the city like desperately? Like,
I mean, she's at Pomona. I don't understand why she'd want to run away from there. Pomona's great.
well,
It's a great school.
okay. That's for her to come to her senses about. LA is the quintessential suburban city, which is an oxymoron because it's filled with morons.
Hey,
It's suburban sprawl just taken to a level of absolute just inefficiency and just wanton like greed. Like, it's a city of greed. Like,
more than New York.
yeah, more than New York. Like, people in New York, at least they're gonna work for their greed. People in LA just like kind of like, it's like the whole like manifest destiny. People think, oh, go west and it's just going to like land and prosperity will just occur. That's not how it works. You have to put effort in. Not saying that New York's good, because there's a lot of things wrong with New York as well. But it's not LA.
What about
LA
Silicon Valley? What about Apple? What about all these places? These places
ew,
out there that
gross.
that they work hard. I don't think we should take LA and say, oh,
Steve Jobs hasn't put in a day in work in years.
that's because he's dead.
That might be true, allegedly.
I just want to point out to you that I think you're kind of thinking about Hollywood and the upper echelon, but I think that there's probably a lot of people in LA who do work hard. And yes, I agree. I never want to live in a suburb. If I ever end up in a suburb, friends, just take me outside and don't let me in my house and let me just die on the sidewalk,
Well,
because
I
I don't want to ever live in a suburb. I hate the suburbs. I want to either live just far away from everybody in the middle of nowhere.
Montana?
Yes, actually Montana's beautiful, but I don't want to live there. I want to live in a city. Either be like in the city, in the environment of just go, or just out in the middle of nowhere where I had to survive. Those are my two. No suburbs.
By survive, do you mean like in like tent and stuff, or like survive as in like you've got your own homestead?
What about like survive as in like I start out in a tent and I slowly build my log cabin, just like Laura Ingalls Wilder.
That's fun.
I read her books. I loved her.
All right. But yeah, like the thing that I hate about LA is that it's a glorified suburb. You need a car to get anywhere there because public transportation is absolutely abysmal. This, like, the entire geography of the region is just like a ring of like mountains that just traps all the smog in because there's so many cars and like all the traffic's horrid.
Yes, I will say that this summer I was out in the Southwest and I was in Las Vegas, which is nowhere near as big as LA, and there was so much smog and it was trapped because they're surrounded by mountains, and it was kind of gross because
Absolutely
it's
disgusting.
just haze. But that could change if we get more environmentally friendly fuels, if we change the way that we utilize our if we change the way that we go around using natural gas and gasoline and stuff and oil, that could change. There could be less smog.
But at least in my opinion, that's the antithesis of LA. Like, LA is not about being an efficient city. It's not about worrying about consequences. So much of the ethos of that city is go try to make it big or go home.
I guess it doesn't help also that's under the Mason-Dixon line for you.
It most certainly is south of the Mason-Dixon line, and therefore is south of like reasonable people.
I like Atlanta. Atlanta is a modern southern
We're
city.
talking about LA. I don't want to get into Atlanta about you.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
We're going to move on
5,
from LA
6,
for a sec
7,
because
8,
you're freaking
9,
out.
10.
Where do you want to live?
I think it'd be, at this point in time, is not necessarily a place that I would want to live permanently. I would be perfectly like something that I think would be ideal would be like being in a position where I can move like every 5 years or so and go see a new city, a new country, and see the world. And I'd really like to do that for a period of time.
Engineers without borders.
Like that's something that is true.
Yeah,
That's
you
a
can
thing
do
that
that.
is, yeah. And we have a chapter here on campus.
Do you really?
We do.
That's amazing.
Go to Guatemala every year.
You should go on it.
Well,
Guatemala is a cool place.
It's very competitive to be the person who actually goes, because that's a very sought after trip. But a lot of people then also are working on like the designing of 'cause,
Yeah.
like, what they do is like build bridges and other things like that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Um,
If you had to choose one city in the United States, though, like what would it be? I love asking people where they want to live because it's so interesting.
in
Because
the United
it's
States,
yes, it has to be in the United States. I'm deciding that. Like that's an executive decision. It's an executive order.
number one city that I'd have to be like my home for the rest of the. It'd have to be split between Seattle or Milwaukee.
Milwaukee, really?
Yeah. Well, first off, I want to talk about Seattle. Seattle has a lot of similar qualities to Milwaukee. It's got kind of like a very strong like indie culture, like very
Yeah,
uh,
hipster.
right. Well, I wouldn't just say that. It's got a very like independent.
Not mainstream.
It's got a very independent feel.
I just got a look for all of you people who cannot see Peter's face right now. I just got a look for saying not mainstream.
I really like kind of the feel of like I really like being on the ocean, like having that kind of like great power. That's similar to something that we got here with like Michigan. I really like kind of the ethos that Seattle has. It's very like forward city.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a lot of things going for it, and that's something that I'd really like. Milwaukee is.
I like to point out that he is originally from Milwaukee,
I'm
from
from Oconomowoc.
okay, but you can tell that he's from.
Oconomowoc.
You can tell that he's from the area because he does not say Milwaukee. He says Milwaukee, which is
The correct way.
it shows that he is from the area because people from the area have that accent and people who are not do not have that accent. I just
Also-
want to point that out.
Also, a telltale sign is that those things that you can get a water from that.
Yeah,
like,
he calls
dispense
them a bubbler.
I call them the correct thing and call them bubblers.
Okay, well, we're moving on. Why Milwaukee?
Milwaukee is like I think it's a great city. There's a lot that gets overlooked in this city. It's like for its size, it has some of the like it's got a very great music scene. Like if you go like kind of per capita, like it's not gonna have the same kind of deal as what you'd get in like LA or if you go to Chicago, but like for its size, it's surprisingly diverse.
I will
it's-
agree with that. And shout out to the rave.
Yeah, actually. And like there's just a lot of really cool stuff in the city and a lot of really cool things going on. Because you've got like a lot of different groups going. Like if you look at other places in Wisconsin, at least, like it's very like monoculture. But like in Milwaukee, you've got like a long history of you've got German, Polish, Italian, Irish immigrants coming in.
I get to learn about that in my American immigrations class. We actually just talked about the Italians for like 3 days straight.
And additionally, then in there's also very large African American and Hispanic communities here that
Yep.
are like very important parts of the community.
They're
And
integral.
yeah, they very like some of the best food that you'll have in the city is on like 7th and National. Like I really love how Milwaukee has all these different things. One of the problems about that though is though we have like on paper like many different groups of people, Milwaukee is the #1 most segregated city in the United States.
And that is definitely an
problem.
issue.
I desperately hope in the future that is able to be mitigated.
Yeah.
And I would like to be able to, if I can take a part in aiding that, that'd be something I'd be interested in. But like Milwaukee has a lot to offer, and it's just a lot of the things holding it back have been itself. But I feel like in the coming years we can do a lot to fix that. And also, like in the next like 10, 20 years, a lot of economic growth is like kind of being like forecasted with like the like mega cities going on in the world. One of them is like the Milwaukee, Chicago mega city. And it's like expected within like the next 30 years that there would it's like you see one massive city like that just kind of stretches all the way from like Gary up through Milwaukee.
Oh my God.
And there's going to be
That's going to be a traffic nightmare.
well, not unless we get like actual like public commute. Like,
yeah, we should get
public
trains.
education.
We should get trains just like Europe because Europe's got it figured out.
Trains,
get some
trains, and automo trains.
Oh my God, get trains! I would love to cross this country on bullet trains. I would love it.
Something that I've looked into numerous times is like taking like trains to like California or something.
It takes like 48 hours.
And it also costs like much more than
taking a
airfare.
plane. We need to get better trains, that's for sure.
Right. But something also like just kind of like a side tangent. Something I'd like to do at some point in my life is like circumnavigate the country on rail, and being
Kinda
like
crazy.
being like not necessarily circumnavigate, maybe go like from East Coast to West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
And like being able to like just stop in a town for a day and like meet the local, not necessarily like meet the locals too much, but like
That'd be fun.
Like you get to see like a literal cross section of the country.
Yeah.
And
I've driven through that cross section. I can tell you right now, it's not as exciting as you expect.
But at the pace of a train, it's fast enough where like you don't have to like, and you can kind of do your own stuff on the train.
Yeah.
But
that's
it's
true,
also
your
at
homework.
like a pace that like humans can actually interact and actually have meaningful experiences.
I will agree with that. One of my favorite things while I was in France was sitting on the train and looking out across the countryside that was zipping by. I actually did really enjoy that. But I have to admit, Kansas is so boring.
Kansas is not American.
Kansas is like America. But, okay, no. But yes, Kansas is part of the United States.
Yeah, but it's like culturally, like that's a different soapbox.
Yes, that's a different soapbox. So you want to be on the West Coast or you want to be in Milwaukee, Midwest?
If that's like the top two. Like I also think like going to New York or Boston would be a very cool city. I'd like to go to. Like
that's one of mine. Yeah.
Boston, just like being out in the harbor, the Boston
The
yard.
harbor. You want to be out in the harbor and you want to park
some
the
baked
car in
beans.
harbor's yard. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff that like MIT. There's a lot like science technology there. I really like being by large bodies of water, just because water's cool. Water's really cool.
Yeah, see, I don't think you do really well in the Southwest. I will agree with you. I really want to be by a large body of water too, and nature is actually extremely important to me as well, and that's kind of why I really want to be on the East Coast. I think I kind of am a little bit of an East Coasty kind of personality. I don't want to stay in the Midwest. I want to get out of here as fast as possible. And that's why next year I'm actually hopefully going to Paris and then hopefully going to Tunisia over winter break to stay at an embassy, and then Les Aspen in the spring, and then hopefully Rwanda in the summer.
Ooh.
I kind of like to travel, but I really like the East Coast because one, it has history, and I like the culture out there, and I like the fast pace of it, and I want to live in one of those bigger cities, but yet, you know, nearby you have Vermont and you have the Appalachian Mountains and you have the ability to get out of the city, but you also just get that city life. I would be happy in any of those cities. I'd be happy in Boston. I'd be happy in New York. I love New York. I've visited there. I'd be happy in Philadelphia. I'd be happy in Washington, D.C., which I'm so excited to be able to live there for a semester next year. I'd be happy in any of those.
I feel like in most cities in the United States, I'd be able to find a way to be happy.
Yeah.
Most, that is.
Including Atlanta.
Yeah, Atlanta, very much I think I could make.
Including Birmingham. Including Gulfport. Including New Orleans. I love New Orleans.
No.
Shout out to them. I got to
Mardi
go there
Gras
last year.
happened this week.
Yes, it did. We celebrated.
Yeah. Did you have any pastries of a Polish kind?
Polish?
Oh, well.
I
Nice.
I didn't do the Polish. I mean, I did my French party with my beignets, but I did not have any Polish food on Mardi Gras. Especially since Mardi Gras is a French, actually. It means Fat Tuesday because grossier is the word for fat or to be fat. And Mardi is Tuesday. So Mardi Gras, it translates to Fat Tuesday. And it was quite fun. But yeah, I think that the United States has a lot of great places that you can live in. The cool part about growing up and being an adult is getting to choose where you live and getting that opportunity.
Yeah. And I think that discussion's probably taken us to the end of our time.
It has taken us to the end of our time. Thank you for being on again, Peter.
Thanks for having me.
And we recorded it, so you can find it on YouTube, which is a little scary.
Although it's a little counterproductive to inform people that they can find our show on YouTube probably at the end of when they're listening to it on YouTube.
Well, I mean, if they're listening to it on YouTube, they've already found it.
Right. Like, that's why I'm like, yeah, you can advertise it, but I'm not sure how many, like, the Venn diagram of people listening to it not on YouTube and people wanting to find it on YouTube, I feel like there's very little overlap.
Let's be honest. We do this for our own enjoyment to have us laugh on a Friday night. We don't do it for the fans because there really aren't any fans.
Oh, no, I do it entirely for the fans. Like, we've got a very, like, dedicated base.
Oh, really?
And
Who's our dedicated base?
Me. And I will always...
You will listen to this on YouTube later?
Well, I'll listen to it enough to, like, figure out when to end and, like, begin each, like, the recording of the video.
Oh my
so
God.
I can crop it. I'll listen to it at least that much. I'm dedicated that far.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that we have one fan, Peter Feeder.
That's how it's pronounced.
Is it really?
Nope.
I knew it. I can't get it right. I have such a trouble pronouncing people's last names. How do you say it?
Fighter.
Ah, dang.
I'm a lover and a fighter.
Okay. Thank you. This has been Peter Fighter and Madeline Mathias, and we are signing off. See you next week, guys.
Use your words.
Use your words.